Please welcome to the stage Anders Inset, philosopher and best-selling author of Singularity Paradox.
The Imaginarium. If this is my simulation, I'm in a good simulation. This is an old philosophical thinking on the nature of reality. From the shadows on the wall of Plato's cave to René Descartes, who fed us with an evil deceiver who was telling us what to perceive and what to think, and to the Irish philosopher Bishop Berkeley, who said what you perceive is real. And we can relate to that. If we put on the goggles today and we have an experience of a virtual world, we have a feeling. We perceive that it's real. So one can argue that the agents in the matrix, or you could call them the population, they perceive. So the matrix is real. But what is the simulation hypothesis that we have been brought to the coffee tables around the world? So in 2003, Swedish philosopher Nick Bostrom proposed 3 scenarios. Out of 1 should be true. Number 1, advanced civilization would never reach technological maturity. Basically, before going into a simulation, we would go extinct. And number 2, we get bored. So ancestor civilization would not have an interest in creating civilization. It would kind of be like the argument of saying that my iPhone has done enough. You know, we could just sit in awe or just enjoy ourselves to death. No progress. Which doesn't seem like what's going on here in Abu Dhabi today. And the third one is basically that progress is possible. So if you look at the last 50 years, and a lot of you are younger than that, 1972, we played Pong, a 2-dimensional game that was very simple. And then we got, the new games that we could tap into and do avatars and move into what we have today. VR, AR, XR, and artificial generated movies that are indistinguishable from real movies. So what follows is this: that is true and we can have progress, we could eventually create a simulation. And this is what Elon Musk says, that there's a 1 in a billion's chance that we live in base reality. Because if everyone could simulate a simulation within a simulation ad infinitum, we are most likely in a simulation. A simulation that is created by some kind of higher computer. And this computer, and you're going to talk about that tomorrow, would be based on the modern physics. It has to be quantum mechanical. But the interesting thing about quantum physics is that there seems to be something that nature is not telling us. There is something that we cannot really grasp. But to keep it simple, because tomorrow is all about quantum, the advance of quantum technology shows us that if you can manipulate fundamental particles in the universe, the simulation is not a philosophical creativity ponder, but a thinking practice. Which brings me to a story a year and a half ago when I was in Vienna. Just came off a conference and I met with a company that I'm engaged with. And I sat down in one of these restaurants in Vienna with 12 quantum physicists. And for those of you who are familiar with quantum physics, the quantum physicists do not agree what quantum theory tells us. It is about, holding on to an observer and Copenhagen. Various others are dancing along some kind of multi-world interpretation. So I asked the 12 people, I said, can you prove to me with modern science and math that we are not living in a simulation? 6 months later, my now good friend and co-author of our forthcoming book, The Singularity Paradox, Florian Neukert, calls me up and say, Anders, I have not slept in months. Because he thought it would be really easy to prove that we are not in a simulation. It's not. We published a paper on observations on the simulation hypothesis and tried to figure out what can we try to unravel with modern math and physics. And to keep it short, the only thing we discovered was that if entropy in the universe increases, the computational complexity grows. Which means that if there is no outside intervenience, the computer would come to a halt. It would slow down because you would have a simulation within a simulation within a simulation ad infinitum. And I'm not going to speculate on cosmology and astrophysics, and I know Richard Penrose can talk about that a lot. But if the computer slows down and it just comes to a halt, what does that mean? And this is where we are on the simulation theory. And we have started to wire our minds, hack biology, hack chemistry, link up the brain, and we're going to build some kind of quantum computer. This is what we're listening to right here. And what does that mean? Maybe it's not relevant if we live in a simulation. No one can take away the feeling that I have standing in front of you, talking about a simulation hypothesis, the experience of my own experience. We were gifted with two opposable thumbs. They gave us the opportunity to create technologies and tools to do advancement for humanity. But it seems as if we were gifted an almost infinite capability of coming up with better explanations, better problems, and to ask new questions. So maybe it's not relevant if we live in a simulation. Maybe what is relevant is that wonderful German word that you cannot translate into English, the word of Lebendigkeit, the vitality of life, what it feels like to be alive, the experience of my own experience. So if this is a computer, no one can neglect the fact that it feels like something. So when we start to build the quantum computer and we want to simulate the universe, the question is maybe not if it's doable. The question is much more so, do we want to process that path? Because the challenge is that we will avoid what I have coined the final narcissistic injury of mankind. If we replace the neurons, if we wire up our brain, could we lose the feeling of being alive, the Lebendigkeit. It would be like in the Greek mythology if Narcissus stares into the water and there's a perfect mirror reflecting his beauty. And it seems like the lights are on, but there is no one home to perceive them. And this is the challenge of science and physics today. When we're saying that space and time is doomed and we can't grasp quantum physics, we are striving towards progress. And I think that's the essence, that we need to keep that progress. If you want to build a simulation, we have to keep the progress. Which takes me back to the Imaginarium here in Abu Dhabi at the Expanse. This place is a reflection of perfection, a manifestation of what the mind is capable of doing, what we can perceive, experience progress. And I think that progress is at the foundation of humanity. So if we are going to build a simulation, be it that we're the first generation or the last generation, we need to make sure that this beauty, these wonders of what it means to be alive, remains. Are we creating a transition from a divine creationism to a humane creationalism, where we can do everything we want? We have one task, and that is to live what it feels like to be a mensch, to be a human being. And I think that this is the essence of what this conference is all about progress for humanity. But not progress in the sense of progress, but a sense of experience progress. And 60 years after Asimov proposed his final question, we always have to leave the room for one last question. And we listened to that yesterday and today. That one question: what if I could see it all? And as long as that is given, I think we are in a good place. And if you are the last one that's going to migrate into some kind of simulation, be sure to leave the lights on. I think it's pretty cool to be a mensch, to be a human being. And I think that this is what life is about experience progress and about feeling the essence of consciousness. Thank you so much.